Good evening. On behalf of the Faculty of Arts and Macquarie University, I'd like to welcome you to the opening of the exhibition Affinities, 7 Museums, 50 Objects. And I'd specifically like to acknowledge our Chancellor, the Honourable Michael Egan, and our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Bruce Doughton. I'm Professor John Simons, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Arts at Macquarie University. Again, welcome, and welcome back to the many familiar faces I see here, and thank you for continuing to support our exhibitions. To acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which the Australian campuses of Macquarie University stand, I'd like to invite Senior Darug Man Lex Dadd to perform the Welcome to Country. Lex.
Budgeringani, ladies and gentlemen, that is good evening in Darug language. My name is Lex Dadd. I'm a Darug man. I come from the Wumali clan in Prospect. My people were first contacted by the English. I have Irish heritage and Aboriginal heritage. A lot of people look at me and go, "He's not a black fella," and I go, "Shh, I'm undercover, don't tell anyone." Today we meet on the Watamatical country of the Darug people. It's protocol for me to pay respects to my elders, both past and present, to pay respects to Muka, the Sky Father, and pay respects to Mother Earth. For without her, we don't have anything. Everything that you see around us, our cameras and all our technology, comes from Mother Earth. So we pay respects to her. And it's our responsibility on how we use those things to protect her. Now I also like to explain a welcome to country to people, because people don't understand why we have a welcome to country. In Australia, we have over 300 different languages and over 300 different countries. And I'll give you an example. I live in the Blue Mountains, and I'm on the borders of my countries there, Darug country. If I wanted to go into Lithgow, into Wiradjuri country traditionally, I would sit on their border and light a fire. And I'd send smoke up and wait to be approached by a traditional custodian. They would come and ask of my business. Now I could wait up to 2 weeks there. Now, I could be passing through country to share important news, to see certain art sites, and they weren't just art, they were stories on how to live through your life, or just meet with family. And they would also tell me the rules of that country, on where I was allowed to hunt, where sacred sites were, where women's sites were that I wouldn't be allowed to go to, me being a male, and so forth, the rules. Now, we don't have those type of rules since colonisation, but I like to say, while you're in my country, and it's not mine, I don't own it, I belong to it, she's my mother, but be good to one another, look after one another. And on that note, I brought some props in tonight. I wanted to show you, because I love coming to Macquarie University. It's like a family for me. I work in all different departments. And I've just come from, I'm a wood carver and I'm a weaver, and I do many things culturally. A lot of people think I just get around and do welcome to countries. No, that's not my main job. And I love Macquarie University because they come together and they look after one another. And this is a perfect example tonight that not one department here in Macquarie University thinks they're an island and that they're by themselves. They haven't acted selfishly or greedily. They've all come together to make this beautiful exhibition possible. And it's like this bit of bark. If they were greedy and selfish and they thought they were an island, they would break like that. They wouldn't have the strength of what we have when we come together. Now they've got another bit of bark here, and I give it a little twist, and I'll quickly make it for you. I bring these 2 pieces of bark together, and it's like all the departments coming together, looking after one another, sharing, coming together as one. And that's how they become and make a beautiful exhibition like this. And when that happens, they become strong. And I can't break that. So without further ado, I'd like to say, Warami, Mediga, Darug Nura, that is welcome, friends, to Darug country, Didgeridoo, and thank you. And before I go, I'd just like to give a little kiri that I made to represent that. Thank you. For you, Michael, and one for you, John.
Well, thank you, Lex. Lex always gives a very interesting spin on the Welcome to Country, and I think I'm going to show this to my heads of department to remind them what we can actually learn from the original owners of this country. This exhibition brings together artefacts from 7 museums across the campus. It dissolves, as Lex pointed out, the walls between those different collections and gives us the chance to see the multiple connections that different artefacts placed together can spark off. The artefacts today stretch from the ancient world to contemporary landscape, and Macquarie's university collections hold treasures that reflect the human journey travelled over great time and the diversity of cultural spaces that it traversed. The exhibition unveils stories and insights into the tastes and values of cultures and societies, and in so doing it also reveals the tastes and values that have shaped our own university and our extraordinary collections made since the university's foundation 50 years ago. And included on public display for the first time, and we're very grateful for this generous donation, is the Lewis Morley archive, which came to us only a few months ago. And to officially open this exhibition, I'm very pleased to invite our Chancellor, the Honourable Michael Egan, AO. The Honourable Michael Egan has been Chancellor of Macquarie University since February 2008. He was Treasurer of New South Wales for a record term from 1995 to 2005, Minister for State Development, Minister for Energy, and Leader of the Government in Legislative Council. He's currently Chairman of the Centenary Institute of Cancer Medicine and Cell Biology, Chairman of the Newcastle Coal Infrastructure Group, and Chairman of the Australian Fisheries Management Authority Commission. Please join me warmly in welcoming our Chancellor, the Honourable Michael Egan.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Lex Dad, for that marvellous welcome to country. Thank you very, very much for that. I think Lex deserves another round of applause for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted tonight to have been asked to open this exhibition. But, as I'm sure Henry VIII said to each of his many wives, or Elizabeth Taylor said to each of her many husbands, I don't intend to keep you very long. Nevertheless, I have been waiting a long time for an invitation to open an exhibition at Macquarie University. As John pointed out, I've been the Chancellor now for more than 6 years, and I was the Treasurer of New South Wales for a record term for almost 10 years. In fact, there have been 5 Treasurers since me, and in total, their time in office still hasn't beaten mine. And as such, I was probably the biggest benefactor of the Art Gallery of New South Wales in the whole of its history. But I never got invited to open an exhibition. And I think it's for the same reason that it's taken 6 years for me to be asked to open an exhibition here. They're worried about what I might say. And there's a good reason for that, and I'm going to tell you about it tonight. Many years ago, almost 35 years ago, when I was a newly elected member of the New South Wales Parliament, I was at Parliament House one Friday evening, and I was staying in the city because I had an evening function, and at about 6 o'clock I thought I'd just go for a little walk around Mrs Macquarie's chair. So you go through the Domain and around that marvellous area of Sydney, which I think everyone should go to at least once, and particularly if they're overseas visitors, because it is just magic. And anyway, on the way back, as I'm walking through the Domain back to the back of Parliament House, I ran into a fellow who, for want of a better word, was a friend of mine, but at least an acquaintance. And he was an acquaintance in 2 respects. First of all, he was, together with me, a member of the Cronulla branch of the ALP, and were both members of the congregation of the St Aloysius Church at Cronulla. Both of Irish background, but he didn't like me and I didn't like him. I was educated by the Christian Brothers, he was educated by the Jesuits. And as a result, he looked down on me, he thought I was bog Irish, and he thought he was very intelligent and very, very cultured. And so we had a sort of an uneasy relationship. And so I'm walking back to Parliament House and I run into him. And he said, "Oh, where have you been?" Now, rather than tell him the truth, I said, "Oh, if you must know, I've been to the art gallery." "What would you be doing at the art gallery?" he said. Well, I said, "It's like this." I said, "I've just opened an exhibition." "Oh, come on," he said, "what would you be doing opening an exhibition?" Well, I said, "Well, if you must know, the Premier was to open it, and he got sick at the last minute, so they asked me to fill in." "Did they give you a speech to read?" He said, "No." I said, "I made it up myself." And there was an exhibition on. It was the Edvard Bunch exhibition. And he said, "What did you say?" I said, "Well, I didn't have much to say, so I simply said, look, I don't know much about art. I know what I like, know what I don't like, and I don't like this." "That is outrageous," he said. "That is a disgrace." And with that, he marched off in high dudgeon one way, and I went back to Parliament House congratulating myself on my bit of whimsy and mischief. Anyway, a fortnight later, I ran into him again, this time on the other side of Parliament House in Macquarie Street. He said, "I just want you to know that the whole of Sydney is talking about your outrageous speech." And they were. He told people who in turn had told people who told people, and the story was then coming back to him and was coming back to me. Now, my friend is now departed from this earth, but I never did tell him the truth. But I suspect that's the reason the Art Gallery of New South Wales never wanted me to open an exhibition, and why it's taken so long here. In fact, they've even given me a page of things I should say. So, and there are some of them I will refer to. The first point, they tell me, is that university museums are an open doorway for communities to access the campus. Well, that should be the case, but I'm not sure that it is the case here, because it has always struck me that this gallery is in the wrong place, completely in the wrong place. There wouldn't be one student in 100, I suspect, that ever comes down here. This is a gallery for the university executive only, almost, and it's not good enough. The other thing I didn't realise until I was asked to open this is that we do have so many museums here on the campus, and this is an exhibition that brings together the objects that are held by the gallery together with those 7 museums. And there are some 20 curators and researchers who have been responsible for this exhibition, and I want to congratulate them all on doing a great job. Galleries and museums are generally great things. They're important not only because of the intrinsic appeal to the senses of some of the objects that are displayed, but I think their importance is that they arouse our curiosity and they make us wonder. And a university, I think, doesn't really serve its purpose unless all of our students leave with a sense of wonderment. So that's why it's very important that we should look after these tremendous assets that we have, and why we should find a new location for this gallery and for all of the 7 museums that we have on campus. Now, that's not going to happen this year, it's not going to happen next year, but I hope it will happen fairly soon. And I'd certainly like it to happen whilst I'm the Chancellor of Macquarie University. Now, as you come in, there is that fabulous photo of Christine Keeler. And I was almost offended when in my notes it referred to the infamous Christine Keeler, because I've always loved her, and I've always loved Mandy Rice-Davies too, who came up with that fabulous expression, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Now, it's part of the language now, but she came up with it. And their reputations were done a tremendous injustice. They were not call girls, they were not prostitutes. They were, as someone earlier pointed out to me, party girls. And I think in 2014 we'd have a completely different view of them. But that photo of Christine Keeler you will see in the National Portrait Gallery in London. And I was thinking on the way here today, that's probably my favourite gallery, simply because every time I go to London, I go there. Because it's a gallery that tells you more about the history, the development of the institutions such as the Parliament, an independent judiciary, the development of the concept of the rule of law, which we take for granted, but most other countries don't even understand. And you can spend a day or a half a day in that gallery, and it is just the most fabulous lesson in the history of the development of all of these things that matter so much to us. And certainly, every time I go to the gallery, I make sure I see that photo of Christine Keeler. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to open the exhibition, and I congratulate everyone who's been associated with it. Thank you.
Michael, thank you very much. We'll ask you back.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got this book for you.
Oh, thank you. I will read it with great interest.
Okay. Well, seriously, thank you very much, Chancellor. Because of the nature of this exhibition, there are more thanks than usual, so please bear with me while I go through the list, and everyone has played their part, so let's give them each their moment. There are over 20 curators, researchers and academics who have put this show together. I'd also like to thank Leica sponsorship for the loan of the microscope, Dr. Ross Peacock for the Antarctic Beach, the Australian Museum, Jonathan Jones, the installation team, Rocket Matler and Tim Moore, Cameron Oldfield for design fabrications, Ian Brew for the IT work, Professor John Magnuson, medical imaging at Macquarie Hospital for the support that they've given us, and in actually other research projects too, in the 3D scanning work, Lewis Morley Estate for the generous donation of the Cabinet of Curiosities, and thank you very much for that. Tom Thompson and Annabelle Hayes for their curation of the cabinet, Effie Alexakis for her photographic work in the exhibition and catalogue, Lester Bunnell of Paper Monkey for a terrific catalogue design as always, Stuart McDougall and his team at Lighthouse Press for the printing of the catalogue, and Paul Hockmeyer for his sensitive conservation of the Geoffrey Bartlett sculpture, Lizzie and Gina for their work on the labels. And a very particular thank you to our long-serving and wonderful curator, Rhonda Davis, who has no idea that I'm going to say this, for putting this exhibition together. Come up here, Rhonda.
I didn't do anything, I just bossed everyone around.
Actually, that's quite true. The other thing I would say that from there's a little gift. It's all gifts tonight. That's a free coffee card. There it is. It's one of those joke pockets. I've got white rabbits, flags, the lot. From the Lewis Morley gift, there's a little fridge magnet which is a book plate, and there are a couple of hundred of these, and they're on a table just out there, just a little souvenir of this exhibition, again with thanks to the Morley Foundation for that. So please feel free to take one. So we hope you'll all enjoy this exhibition. It'll run here until the 25th of May. And we're also running various public lectures every week as part of this show, so please check the Art Gallery website for the complete calendar of very exciting events. Thank you once again for coming, and enjoy the rest of the evening.